esteem and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. And John 5:39, and probably about 2 Kings 15 right after that. One of these days we'll get done with all these kings, but as y'all can see, it is a plethora, a cornucopia, if you will, of information. All right then. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that comes from Elohim only? And see, that's one of the things that that was mentioned in the process about decision making, and that is what you're doing. Does it esteem Elohim in the process? And you have to sit back and look at, if you seeking the honor that comes from Elohim only, then you're going to make sure that your actions are dictating that the things that they do bring honor to him, versus trying to do what you want to do. That's what's always got Israel in trouble. Or the biggest thing that got Israel's always gotten Israel in trouble, and that's 2 Kings chapter 15 verse 1. The biggest thing that always got Yasharal in trouble was this: serving Yah how they wanted to serve him, put his name on it, and try to pass it off. And we already dealt with that, dealing with Jeroboam. You know what I'm saying? Doing what we want to do, but trying to put his name on it for no other reason than to make ourselves feel better about what it is that we're doing that is not according to his will. Because matter of fact, before we proceed any further, hold this 2 King 15 and come over here to Romans chapter 10. Romans 10 and 3. Now, of course, y'all know most of y'all done heard this Romans 10 numerous times. It's quoting Deuteronomy chapter 30. But there's a reason for this cause and for this reason why we come here right now. He say, make it verse 2. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Elohim, but not according to knowledge. So you have a jealousy, you have a passion for Yah, you have a desire for Yah, but you don't have it according to what's written in the text. Because Paul told you in his epistle to the Corinthians that some of you have not the knowledge of Elohim. I speak this to your shame. Before he said that evil communications corrupted good manners, or evil people makes good behavior go astray. It makes it sinful. It makes it decays. I don't care what y'all think about it. I don't care what you say about it. You seeing it with these kings, because every last one of these kings, because they had evil communications as forth of their behavior and the doctrines of which they administered to the people, it corrupted the people and caused them to go astray. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's why I mentioned to y'all beforehand I think that was last week, about how we more quick to forgive and reconcile and iron things out with sinners than people who are inside the household, because we have an idealistic view of how we perceive how people in the household of Yah are going to do. When in Luke 17:1, this man told you that offenses will come. This is why he said, if your brother offends you 70 times in a day and he repent, forgive him. And I'm going to mention this again because I just seen a video where dude was talking about somebody caning somebody, and the dude was like, why don't you go debate, like the book tell you, debate your cause with your neighbor that you might win your brother. Because if y'all don't pay attention to this book, the people got on Samuel's nerves. The people got on Moses' nerves. Now, some could say, get a thought process where they were just coming up out of Egypt with Moses, but yet they saw Elohim and heard the word from Elohim and still did what they did. We not even in that type of situation. Do you know what I'm saying? By the time Samuel came on the scene, they already knew what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And they just were moving and navigating how they so chose. But you have to realize, I don't see how we don't realize that in the word, knowing that some of you have natural family members who you done fell out with, argued with, and you went and patched that up. And you're supposed to sit back and look at, regardless if you've known these people in the word for 1 month or 40 years. You family, you're going to butt heads. It's going to be disagreements. It's going to be misunderstandings. Majority of times in life, a lot of things are just really blown out of proportion because of misunderstandings or miscommunication. You know what I'm saying? That's really what a lot of stuff be, is really just misunderstandings or miscommunications, or things are not properly communicated from person to person, and some come out a particular way, and that ain't really what that person, they didn't mean, maybe necessarily meant to express it in that fashion, and then somebody get upset. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just mentioning that because we probably have to get into that some of what we finna hit this evening, because that type of stuff can stop you from getting your soul saved. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at every single solitary thought, action, decision that could stop you from getting your soul saved. Nothing is too small or minute for you to just say, I don't need to worry about this or be concerned about this. You know what I'm saying? I've told y'all this before, and I will tell you this again. And not just with the word, but first and foremost with the word. As long as you are alive, as long as there's breath in your lungs, and you have full control over your mental faculties, that you should be growing, maturing, and learning in some area and aspect of your life every single day. Because as long as you're alive, there's always room for improvement. That's the way that you should already be thinking in anything that you do, period. That you can always get better. You should have a desire to want to be better. And whatever it is that you're doing, especially the word, but with anything, you know what I'm saying? The minute that you stop growing, the minute you stop maturing, the minute you start going backwards, you are literally dead. And that is the evidence of being reprobate. Well, one of them anyway. Because you're going backwards and not forwards. Do you know what I'm saying? You shouldn't want to be the person you was when you was 16 and you 25 now. Of course, there'll be elements that you had with you in your thought process and perspective that you may have had at 20. Well, it's a little different because I'm older, y'all. At 22, that at 30, because there's certain perspectives that I still carry now, and things and lessons that I learned when I was young that I still carry now at 37. But I do not think and view and move and live at 37 like I did when I was 19. Well, when I was 24. I can't count from 24 to 28, even though that perspective was different because I was incarcerated. So even being incarcerated and you sit and you get sat down for a period of time, it causes you to reflect on your life and your decisions, because that's all you have to do. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, as crazy as it sounds, sometimes going to jail can be a blessing in disguise for some people, because it causes them to sit them down, and you have to sit there because your life getting too hectic. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes that's why y'all put you in certain positions, because your life is getting too hectic and you got to sit down and reflect. A lot of times when you're supposed to be sitting down and reflect, we try to cleave and to grab on to other things versus looking at ourselves and what it is that I need to do to be better, to be great. Because anybody can be average. You don't want to be average. You want to be great, because your Elohim is great. He told you he's the great and mighty and terrible Elohim. If we are his sons and we are his daughters, then we ought to be great and mighty or great and powerful just like he is. He says it's his desire for us to be just like him. So you have to start thinking like how he thinks. And that's the process of going from moving from the nephesh to the ruach. Nevertheless, he say, for they being ignorant of Elohim's righteousness, going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of Elohim. For Mashiach is the end of the Torah for righteousness to everyone that believe. For Moses described the righteousness which is of the Torah, that the man which do those things shall live by them. But the righteousness which is of faith speak on this wise, say not in thy heart, who shall ascend into Shamahim, that is to bring Mashiach down from above, or who shall descend into the deep, that is to bring up Mashiach from the dead. But what saith it? The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart. That is the word of faith which we preach. You know what to do. It's already present with you. Say, say the kingdom of Elohim does not come by observation, saying lo here, or lo there. The kingdom of Elohim is within you. because this man's actual breath is in you. His essence is in you. Now, attaining his ruach is that if you believe his word, to believe. Matter of fact, since I said this here, Acts chapter 17, so you can understand what I'm saying. What you back there talking about, Abigail? I heard that, Abigail. Acts chapter 17 and verse 27. And after that, Ephesians chapter 4. I'll make it verse 26. And has made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on all the face of their rats, and have determined the times before appointed. You see what he said? He determined the time before appointed and the bounds of their habitation, that they should seek Yahuwah, if happily they may feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. This man is not far from any of us. It's just the fact, will you feel after him, will you seek after him, and will you do it happily? And that takes us back to what's in Jeremiah 6 and 16, where he say, my people, he say, I told them to seek the ancient paths, was actually verse 10, where he say, this people ears uncircumcised, they cannot hear, because they don't have a delight for it. The word of the Yahuwah is a reproach unto them. It's a dishonor. I think a lot of our people feel like the word is a burden, because it's stopping them from doing what it is that they want to do. Instead of looking at what's written in 2 Corinthians 3 and 17 and say, well, the ruach of the master or Yahuwah is, there is freedom. You always have to sit back and look at the 99.9% of the time you have a carnal mind when you're looking at what you can't do versus what you can do in Yahushua. That's how your mind ought to be looking. Not at what you can't do, but what you can do. Because if the book say you can do all things through Mashiach who strengthen you, we ain't always just sitting back looking at when you get in a low situation or circumstance, which by all means, because that takes you back again. I'll just do it like this. Pause. I'm going to word to it because something came in my head. Just pause. Verse 28. Say, for in him we live and move, and we have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offsprings. So notice that he said, in him you live and you move. Well, how is it that you in him you live and you move? Paul, before we get Ephesians chapter 4, Genesis 2 and 7. Let's see how you in him and you live and you move. And then after that, Job 33. And then we'll go to Ephesians 4 and then swing to Philippians 4 and 13 to actually read the verse that I mentioned about Mashiach strengthening you and what just came to my head with that. Just bear with me. We're going to work our way around the corner. Genesis 2 and 7. And it says, Yahuwah Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So I want every last one of you. Well, let me read Job 33 first. Let me read Job 33 first. Let me read Job 33 first before I ask you to do this real quick. Like Job 33 and 3. Because remember, he said, in him you live and you move. It said he breathed into Adam, made him a living soul or a living nephesh. This is one of the things that we done looked at in the past, how you know that he wasn't made to live forever, because he was a living soul. You know, if you pull out the word nephesh on your own time, you'll see that it's going to tell you that that's the seed of the appetites of man. I'll pull it up for y'all right now, though. And we don't want to make decisions based off our soul, our nephesh. You don't want to make decisions based off of that, because you're going to make the wrong decision a majority of the time. And that's your soul, yourself, your life, your creature, your person, your appetite, your mind, your living being, your desire, your emotions, your passions. The seed of the appetites, the seed of the emotions and passions, and the activity of your mind, your will, and your character. The man himself, the person or individual. Now let's look at Job 33. And let's see what Job 33 and 2 going to tell us. He said, behold, now I have spoken my mouth. Behold, now I have opened my mouth, and my tongue hath spoken in my mouth. My word shall be of the uprightness of my heart, and my lips shall utter knowledge clearly. The ruach of Elohim hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. So the thing that I was going to ask y'all to do is just take you a deep breath and then exhale that breath out and thank Yah for it. Because that breath in your lungs is what is how this man lives and moves in you, even though you may not actually possess his eternal ruach hakodesh, which quickens the man to life everlasting. Because there's a difference. You have the breath of the Almighty, or the ruach of the Almighty that gives you life, which is the air that just proceeded out of your lungs when you breathed out. And then you have the ruach hakodesh, which is quickens a man to everlasting life. So knowing that this man lives in you and he moves in you by the breath that is in your lungs. But at the same token, see, you're separated from him to a certain extent because you are a living soul. So you don't have the essence and elements that he possesses. So let's look at the next thing, what I mentioned. What was that? Ephesians chapter 4. Because this man is in every single last one of us. But then there's going to come a point that when you die, he's going to, that's why Ecclesiastes say he take back the breath or the ruach, which he gave a man. Now, if you don't have that ruach hakodesh in you, then you don't belong to him, and that's where you enter into your problem. 4 and 3. I'll read 4 and 1. I therefore, the prisoner of the master, beseech you that you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called. So that's another key point of what we're looking at decision making. When you look at the choices that you make, you have to look at the choices that you make. Does it show forth that you're worthy of the vocation? Let's look at the word vocation in the Greek real fast, just on general principle. Y'all should know what a vocation is in English though, but we're just going to look at it in Greek anyway. And for this particular word, it is klasis. And it is a calling or an invitation to a feast or a divine invitation to embrace the salvation of Elohim. So you should need to know how to walk worthy of the calling of Elohim. When we look at a lot of people who were called by Elohim, there were some people who were called of Elohim that did not walk worthy of it. Saul didn't walk worthy of that calling. He called him to become king and he didn't walk worthy of that invitation. Now, all of us say that we trying to be to the wedding supper of the Lamb, the marriage supper of the Lamb, to sit down and feast with him. You have to walk worthy of that. To walk worthy of that, you need to be able to know what is the perfect and acceptable will of Elohim. Not your perfect and acceptable will, not what you want to do to make you feel good, or not what you desire or want to do. And that's why the book tells you that in the last days they'll have itching ears. Somebody mute their phone with that. Sound like you trying to cook something. Let me get that 2 Timothy chapter 4. Let's put that 2 Timothy chapter 4 of what I'm referencing. Because a lot of people like to slide and they like to listen to people who going to teach the word along the lines of what they want to hear. If it fits what I want to hear, then that's who they going to listen to. Because there's plenty of people out here who preach the word and preach it properly and correctly. You know what I'm saying? They may be like a needle in the haystack, but they are there. Most people like to go from, like I just seen a brother say he was trying to compare one camp to another camp as far as what they teach. I don't know what his objective was, but everybody don't preach and teach the same things. So sometimes people like to gravitate to somebody who's going maybe say, hey, we with this or we that. Like, you know, for an example, you might have some that, okay, they say a woman can preach. Some people, they're going to slide over there with that because they agree with that and that's what they want. So that's who they're going to listen to. You know what I'm saying? If these brothers over here say, hey, man, it's all right for you to smoke a little marijuana, man. And that's what people going to go to. If somebody say, hey, man, you know, you can divorce your wife and marry somebody else while she's living, then that's where they're going to go. Because that's what they want to hear. What it is, 2 Timothy 4 and 1. I charge thee therefore before Elohim, the master, and the master Yahushua HaMashiach, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word, be instant in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort, with all long suffering and doctrine. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine. Remember, sound means healthy. But after their own lusts shall heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. So he said they're going to turn from the faith, and they're going to listen to tall tales, to lies, to stories. But notice that he said that they will not endure or be able to continue to walk in things that are healthy, things that are beneficial to the soul, because they're going to go after their lusts and grab to, just like we read in Judges so many times, how they went in, and the same thing with the people setting up base men to be priests. They're going to set up their own teachers who going to tell them what they want to hear. That's who they're going to pull to them. I like him. He tell me what I want to hear. See, I like what he say, because he say you can do this and you can do that, and you know what I'm saying. That's the book already tell you this is what's going to happen. It's happened in the past. There's nothing new under the sun, and it's going to continue to happen until his return. Because that's what people want is and people like to just isolate that to Christians, but it's just not Christians, because Hebrews do it too. Let's go back to Ephesians chapter 4. Just like I always say, man, I'm talking to my man in Harlem about it. Dudes with that parsing and all that type of stuff. Just seeing that parse and dudes doing that, and or people trying to make stuff, oh, this is so deep and that's so deep and all this old other stuff, because at the end of the day, dudes trying to cloak their lust. I like this person. He confirms my lusts. And you have to look at yourself on that. Are you listening to the expounding of the word by the individual because they're allowing you to satisfy your lust, or because of what is being instructed, that it is crucifying your lust, like Hamashiach told you to do? That is one of the determining factors when you determine if you're going to listen to somebody instruct you in the word. There's a few determining factors, but that's one of them. Are you listening for them so because they're strengthening your flesh, or because they're going to slay it? Because you should want your flesh slayed by his word. And his word should slay it every time you read it or hear it. It should slay it every time you read it or hear it. Because the whole objective is to mortify the members of your body. You mortify the members of your body and you save your soul alive. You keep the members alive and you will perish. And I don't see why you would perish. I don't understand why you would do that. With all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love. Notice how he said what I mentioned earlier. With the lowliness and the meekness and forbearing one another in love. Let's look at that in Colossians chapter 3 real fast. About the forbearing one another in love. Because that's what I said. That goes back to, some of y'all got siblings. I know some of y'all done had some knockdown, drag out arguments, maybe even physical altercations with your siblings. And you still, and guess what ended up happening? Most of the time you went and fixed it. Because it's somebody you love, it's somebody you care about. Well, if the book tells you and that whoever do the will of Elohim is your sister, your mother, and your brother, and then you have an issue with your sibling in Yahuwah, which truth be told surpasses your sibling according to the flesh, why wouldn't you do the same thing with them? Colossians 3 and 12. Put on therefore as the elect of Elohim, Kadesh and beloved, bowels of mercy, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long suffering, forbearing one another, and forgiving one another. And if any man have a quarrel against any, even as Mashiach forgave you, so also do ye. And above all these things, put on charity, which is the bond of perfectness. Now, we're going to look at it, and we're not going to pull the situation for you to read it, but you can go pull it. I want to say it is Genesis chapter 33. But I might be mistaken. I want to say it's Genesis 33. I'm going to check. Fact check, make sure that's correct. And that is correct. Genesis chapter 33. You read this on your own. And you can link that with Genesis 25 and 27. Esau wanted to kill his brother Jacob. Jacob knew he was chosen over Esau. Jacob had already received the blessing at this point. Had already had his name changed to Yasharal at this point. But when he saw his brother in the 33rd chapter of the book of Genesis, and Esau had tears in his eyes and sought forgiveness from his brother, Jacob forgave him. Ain't now one of y'all had nobody you got a problem with who wanted to kill you and was going around looking for you to kill you. You ain't got and Jacob forgave his brother, knowing his brother was trying to kill him. He had already been told by his mama his brother was trying to kill him. He already knew this. saw his brother weep with tears, and he forgave him on the spot. Ain't holding none of that against him. And this is why the book telling you this. If you say you are the elect or chosen of Elohim, we supposed to possess that same type of attribute. He said anybody you got a quarrel or issue with, he say forgive them. Forbearing one another in love is dead. And that's where that long suffering come in at. If somebody did something to you and you forgave them and they continue you did them wrong and you suffered their behavior, then you will be showing the attributes of Yahuwah, because he say he's long suffering, and therefore every time you do good unto them, you will be heaping coals of fire on their head. I don't see how y'all don't understand that. If a nigga doing you wrong, they claiming the word, you supposed to do even. Matter of fact, since I said it, Romans chapter 12, you supposed to do even more right to them. You supposed to do even more right to them so they can go to hell with gasoline drawers on and some nice shoes on, nice outfit, fresh haircut, all that good stuff. Romans chapter 12. I want to say by verse 14. Yeah, verse 14 the word. Bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Now remember, when he say bless and not curse, don't damn anybody to hell. Don't ask for Yah to destroy them. He said go ahead and bless them. Be of the same mind towards one another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as lie in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place to wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith Yahuwah. Therefore, if thy enemy hunger, feed him. And if he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. And I'll reiterate it again. You got a problem with a nigga, you supposed to go holler at them. They don't want to hear that after that. You go get 2 or 3 witnesses. They don't want to hear 2 or 3 witnesses, then you bring them in front of everybody. And then when they don't want to hear everybody, that's when you cut them off. That's when you say I don't fool with you no more. That's how you go about that. I done told you that numerous times, word wide. That's how you go about that. 1-on-1, 2 to 3, the whole body, and then you cut them off. Not you mad and you cut them off, or you didn't get the response in a 1-on-1 conversation and then you cut them off. Going outside of that, you could lose your soul because you're not doing what he told you to do. Something that small. Which ain't that small. That's what I mean by the stuff we overlook. Because the thing 1-on-1, that go back to Proverbs, man. It say debate thy cause with thy neighbor yourself. And if you win, let me get that. Proverbs 25 and 29, I want to say. Let me make sure. If it's not, I'll find it. But I want to say it's 25 and 29. It is not. Because there is no 29. We're still holding Ephesians chapter 4. But that's what I mean on the minor things. The things that you may not think could be detrimental. Could be detrimental. It's 25 and 9. I had the 9 right. Just put a 2 in front of it. I had the 9 right though. 25 and 9. Debate thy cause with thy neighbor himself, and discover not a secret to another. So let's look at that and see what it means. When we look at the word debate, it is rev, and that's to strive or contend or to conduct a suit, a case or a suit, or to have a quarrel, to make an attempt. You know what I'm saying? Basically, you have a problem with a person. There's an issue. When it says discover not, it's to remove. Oh, that is verse 10. That word secret is sowed. And that is a council, an assembly, company, a circle of friends, a familiar converse, or entity. I remember we done dealt with this before. Because that ain't what we thought what you think it means. That second half of it is basically that's when Judas showed those company of people where the master was. Because I think I told you about that the other day when dudes was going back and forth about the Hebrew thing. All y'all hadn't got on the line when I was discussing it though. But that's an instance of where looking at something in English versus what it means in Hebrew could tell you something different. Because looking at it in English, you're going to look at it as somebody told you something that was a secret, and he say don't mention it. But then when you look at what the word secret is there, it's talking about a company or a group of people. You know what I'm saying? And to not deliver that up. And Judas did that. And that goes along the lines of, God forbid any one of y'all would do it. I hope that y'all don't none of y'all do it. But it's going to come a time where somebody might sit back and bring them people to where an assembly of believers are to get them killed. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll be honest, I don't know every person who deal with the word in this world, but of course we know according to the word, because the word says it's going to happen. But me just being in the streets, I know it's going to happen. Some of these niggas is going to fold. You know what I'm talking about? Because you talking about going to jail or getting killed. Nigga ain't with it. You know what I'm saying? Niggas not with it. Nigga gonna tell on whoever. You know what I'm talking about? And see that, and the part where I know what a lot of niggas gonna tell that, cause y'all gonna have some people, you know, they gonna be prepared. They gonna have all their food. They gonna have, you know, all their supplies, all their weapons, all the type of stuff. But then when these people go to acting crazy, he gonna cause you to get snatched where you couldn't get to it. And then it's gonna be some first 48 jump, boy, and some nigga gonna fold because you ain't never been in that situation where you ain't gonna have your freedom and you gotta sit in a cell, or somebody got that type of control over your life, and that fear gonna take over because your faith was just that weak. And nigga gonna tell on everybody, and they gonna get everybody killed. And them crackers still gonna kill you anyway. Do you know what I'm talking about? Cause don't nobody respect a snitch. There's nobody walking the plane. The police don't respect snitches. They just use them for their aims. Do you know what I'm saying? But I know niggas is gonna fold. Most of these brothers, if they done been to jail before, they not gonna see going back to jail. That's not gonna be a fearful thing for them. If somebody just got the heart of a soldier, heart of a lion, and they ain't never stepped foot in no jail, that's not gonna bother them. If you've already laid your life down for Mashiach, somebody threatening to take your life will put no fear in your heart. That's why this man told you perfect love cast out fear. Niggas ain't got perfect love because they ain't got perfect faith, therefore they got fear, so when it go down, they gonna fold. They gonna fold. You have to keep that in mind, because people around you got to be solid, because some of these niggas gonna do just what this man said. You gonna discover the secret to another. You gonna show the people where the congregation at. You gonna pull a Judas. You gonna pull what them people did to Samson. You gonna show them where they at. I take you to them. It's gonna happen. These things, and that's why I've been telling y'all, and over the last few months I have been telling y'all, man, the people who gonna turn on you are gonna be other Hebrews. It's not gonna be the people in the world. Hello.
Hello.
Shalom. It ain't gonna be the people in the world. It's gonna be somebody who looking around saying they believe like you believe and they think like you think, and y'all so simple that you think just cause a nigga say that mean they are Yahuwah, and forget that the man say the wheat gonna grow amongst the tares. And we dealt with that with the tares, that they look like the wheat, but on the inside they black. So on the inside they full of wickedness and deceit and malignity, but they look just like you. That's why he said the word is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. When the word comes, I can see if you a wheat or a tare or not, because it's going to be manifested when that word comes. And you got to, and that comes again by reason of use. You will be able to judge, and you will be able to know good and evil and stop being simple. He said, how long will you simple ones love simplicity? How long will we be simple? We have to remove the idealistic view of how we think things should be and see things for what they are. Some people in this word are solid. Some people in this word are not. Sometimes you're not going to get along with everybody. Sometimes your brother is going to offend you. Sometimes your brother is going to piss you off and get on your last absolute nerve. But if you love him, you're going to forgive him and you're going to work past it. You're going to deal with it. That's why he told, why do you think this man put in the law for you not to bear no grudge against your neighbor? Why do you think he told you that? Because he already knows what the nature of man is and what's going to occur. That's why he put it in there. That's why the master told you offenses must come. The law already tell you this is going to happen. That's why he put it in there. Because the greatest thing that you could pull off to show forth the power in the kingdom of Shamahim is if you can love and forgive each other like Yahuwah has loved and forgiven you. We don't look at them things. We looking at taking on his nature. Taking on his nature would mean you take on his mind and think and do like he does and not be moving by the seat of your appetites or your emotions. Nevertheless, come on back to Ephesians chapter 4. That's why I told you last week, and when it's about your heart. It's about changing your heart and changing your mind. You can't get in the kingdom of you can't get in and think, oh, I keep the Sabbath and I don't eat no pork, or okay, that nigga said that there. You know what I'm talking about? Shoot, I'm married now, so shoot, I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing but what? Commit adultery. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. You thinking things like that, you straight. When it's your heart, it's your heart. Not just the action, but the heart that conjures up the thought that proceeds the action. Because you could not do any of these things and still go to hell because your heart's not right. It's your heart that's the problem. Take that heart of stone out, put that heart of flesh in. It's your heart. Your heart is the problem. Your mind is the problem. You change that, and you can change, and you can get it in. Where we at? Verse 3. Endeavoring to keep the unity of the ruach and the bond of shalom, there is one body and one ruach, even as you are called in one hope of your calling. One master, one faith, one immersion, one Elohim, and Abba of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. How is he in you all? He can be in you all by two avenues. The breath of life or the ruach HaKadosh. Because you can hear the sound of my voice and you just exhale the breath out of your nostrils or out of your mouth, depending on how you breathe. You done experience one. We seeking to experience the other. Because one just keeps you alive for a period of time. The other keeps you alive forever. I think I mentioned something else. Philippians 4:13. We'll pick it up at verse 10. But I rejoiced in the Master greatly that now of your last care of me have flourished again, wherein you were also careful, but you lacked opportunity. Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I'm instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Mashiach, which strengthened me. Now he said that he could do. Now let's sit back and look at something, right? Let's look at something the Master did. Luke chapter 22. Let's look at the Master itself. Let's look at Luke 22 and 39. And let's look at the biggest thing that this man did and the fact that he got strength to be able to accomplish that. Because sometimes you need ministering or service to your ruach to strengthen you. He told Peter this. He said, you know, when you are converted, strengthen your brethren. Well, where the word of the Malach is, there's power. So the strengthening, and that's why the book tells you two is better than one. Because see, when you're dealing with the word, and that's why the book says, I'm a companion of those who fear thee. You want the strength by being with the people who are walking in the direction that you're going in. Do you know what I'm saying? Isolation word-wise is never a good thing. Do you know what I'm saying? If you isolate yourself, it's never a good thing. Because he say two is better than one. Because if one fall, who going to be there to pick his brother? Pick his brother up. What we end up doing most of the time is we pick and choose that I only want to deal or talk to or be around this person. Then what you really doing when you isolate, when you do that, this is what you're doing. You can only be able to get the benefits and strengths of what that person possesses, and you cut yourself off from what the next person possesses and the other person possesses, because everybody possesses certain things that are mutually exclusive to them, which makes them uniquely who they are. You know what I'm saying? So when you decide to say, I only want to talk to this person or be around this person or deal with this person, then you can only extract what that person has. Versus if you move around and you deal, it's no different when they talk about networking. You move around different type of people, and you can pull different type of things from different individuals. Because the book tell you everybody in the body has a purpose. Everybody has a gift, a certain thing that they can do. That's what you say. You know, some have wisdom, some have faith. You could talk one person, they don't have the wisdom to be able to give you a particular word that you may need at a particular time. And you can talk to somebody else, and they do. That's why anytime that we hear about anybody who has an organization in the city, we try to link up with them, or we'll holler at them. It's not like saying, oh, y'all come over here with us, or we trying to come over here with y'all. We just letting you know we out here. We know y'all out here. Let you know what I'm saying? We're going to holler at you. You need anything, whatever the case may be, just know that we here. Just like these brothers had an immersion down here, man. A couple of brothers live here. A lot of them didn't. Only 2 of them live here. We went to holler at them. And it wasn't no, hey, man, y'all can come over here and fellowship with us on the Shabbat since y'all in the city. They didn't ask about it. We didn't mention it. You know what I'm saying? You keep on rocking and doing what it is that you do. You know what I'm saying? We just came to holler at you. And you know what was crazy is that them brothers said they were shocked that we would even come holler at them. Because they say most Hebrew organizations will not come and talk to another group of brews that don't fellowship with them. Or if they do come, they trying to recruit that group and absorb them in with them. You know what I'm saying? And it's not about that. It's the same way where Paul set up certain stuff and he say we're going to go back and see how our brethren fare. You just go in there, holler at them, check on them, see how they doing. How life treating you. You know what I'm saying? How's your who been treating you? How's been your journey and course in the word? You ain't got to come along with us. It's no different. When we immersed Brother Otis, we didn't tell Brother Otis, oh, you got to be with us now because we doing this here. Man, you get immersed and you could go your way. Go in the direction that y'all lead you in and direct you in. You don't have to come over here. You don't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? That's never how, you never see the apostles operating in this fashion. When you read the book of Acts, when you read the letters, they didn't operate in that fashion. You know what I'm saying? But they did operate in the fashion of wanting to meet and fellowship with other people who may not necessarily were in the synagogues that they were in at that particular time. They hollered at them just to let them know that we're here. And you know what I'm saying? And for a lot of Hebrews, man, they be really wanting to know that there's somebody else out here that's on what they on, or believe what they believe, or seeking what they seek, irregardless of what the doctrine may be. We done had a couple people come through. They may not like what we were dealing with, and they went and stuck with what they were rolling with. It's not a problem. But they know that we here though, if there was ever needed or necessary. So nevertheless, 22 and 39. And he came out and went, as he was wont, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples also followed him. And when he was at the place, he said unto them, pray that you enter not into temptation. And he withdrew from them about a stone's cast, and kneeled down and prayed, saying, Abba, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. And there appeared Malachim unto him from Shamahim, strengthening him. Now you sit back and look at this here, right? Yahuwah himself strengthened his son so he can be able to do all things, which was to get up on that stake and die. So knowing that if your master could receive strength, and that type of situation, then you can receive strength in the things that you have to deal with, especially when it comes down to your decision making. Let's come back to 2 Kings 15. Cause matter of fact, he could tell you that there. When we was in the land, did we say anything about preaching the word to the people? Ain't even mentioned it. Only time we ever got spoke about it, somebody brought it up, and that was very rarely. Do you know what I'm saying? If anybody brought it up. Because you know what I'm saying? You're not there for that. And I'm just saying this here, everybody's different. Because I know some other brothers who will do it too. Then I know some brothers who will plug that they preach the word and where they videos at every single solitary chance they get. You know what I'm saying? I know some brothers who can't sit down and listen to nobody else teach because they got to be the one doing it. And if they ain't doing it, they don't care. You know what I'm saying? That ain't where it's supposed to be, though. That's not how it was in ancient times, nor during the times of Mashiach or the apostles. It was never like that. Ego and carnality came into play of why we have all these fightings. That's why the book tell you don't do anything for vain esteem. A lot of us want vain esteem. 2 Kings 15 and verse 1. And we have to make sure that we're not seeking after vain esteem. That gets you in some real life trouble. You don't want nothing to do with that. I promise you don't. At the end of the day, it's all about making sure your soul is saved. Alright? All about making sure your soul is saved. All that other stuff ain't hitting on nothing, don't mean nothing. 2 Kings 15 and 1. In the 27th year of Jeroboam, Malach of Yasharal, began Azariah, son of Amaziah, Malach of Yehuda, to reign. 16 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Jecholah of Jerusalem. And he did that which was right in the sight of Yahuwah, according to all that his father Amaziah had done. Save the high places were not removed, the people sacrificed and burnt incense still on the high places. And Yahuwah smote the king, so that he was a leper unto the day of his death, and he dwelt in a several house. And Jotham the Malach's son was over the house, judging the people of the land. And the rest of the acts of Azariah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the Malachs of Yehuda? So Azariah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the city of Daoud, and Jotham his son reigned in his stead. Let me see that pull that story about him getting smoked with being a leper. You know, that got to be if I'm not mistaken, every leprosy come with a little scratching on it too, don't it? Have a little itchy, be a little itchy. I don't know too much about the leprosy though. You won't get no leprosy. That don't even sound like that's something you want to have dealing with yourself right there, man. Hold on, I don't see nothing on it. Let's look at 2 Chronicles 22 real quick. Chronicles 22 real quick. Golly, man, my nail broke. I gotta finally cut that thing. That junk broke. Lord, that junk hurt. Nah, that ain't him. That ain't him. Come on back to Kings. That ain't him. That's the end of his story. No more of him. There's no more of him. Come on down here to verse 8, and let's look at the next one. All these stories kind of short. That's why we're going to roll in and knock all them out. 2 Kings 15 and 8. Now, when we look at, let me pause. When we look at what this here, when we look at the things of testing decision making, it says that Amaziah did that which was right in the eyesight of Yahuwah, but the thing that he didn't do was remove the high places. Well, let's look at what the law says on that, as if he already spoken about this. Let's look at Exodus chapter 20, and let's see if he already spoken about this. And then after that, Deuteronomy chapter 7. We'll look at two witnesses to see had he spoken about this. Because we can see, because he didn't do this, this is what got him smoked with leprosy, according to the context of how we read and what we read. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 1. Elohim spake all these words, saying, I'm Yahuwah thy Elohim, which have brought thee out of the land of Mizraim, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shamahim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah thy Elohim, and a jealous Elohim, visit the iniquity of the fathers upon their children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Let's come over to Deuteronomy 7. So we already know that according to his word, this is not a very pleasing thing to Yah. And not only look at it as for worshiping idols, just look at it as anything you put before Yah is not good. Your husband shouldn't come before Yah. Your wife shouldn't come before Yah. Your children shouldn't come before Yah. Your job or your hustle, your own. This is why the master told you, you got to hate your own life also. He said, he that loveth father, mother, brother, sister, son, daughter, is not worthy of me. You have to put that and consider that in your brain. If you love your family or yourself or your children, and you put them before Yah, that man said you not worthy of me. And you have to really sit there and consider that. How can you say you worthy of a God whom you place things before? That you say that these things are more important than what he has instructed me to do, and he is the source of my life because he lives in me and runs through me through his breath that resides in me, and I place him before. I place these people before him, or I place these things before him, or I place this idol before him. You have to look at that. Are we making this man's name common, or i.e. profane? The same thing, we had to look at the Sabbath day. Will we make his Sabbath day like any other day? Because his Sabbath day is not like any other day. The things that you would do the other 6 days of the week are not to be done on this day. He set it apart for it to be different than any other day. It's not supposed to, we're not supposed to do the things that you would do on the first day of the week, or the second, or the third, or the fourth, or the fifth, or the sixth. That man said, I gave you 6 days to do everything you desire and want to do. But he said, on this day, you shouldn't seek your own words or your own pleasure, or even think your own thoughts or your own ways. He said, this day is to be set apart. So then we look like that we dwell in him and he dwell in us, and we've been sanctified through his body. We are not supposed to be common. You're not supposed to be like everybody else. You're supposed to stand out, just like this set apart day do. And then we got to ask ourselves, do we really want to stand? Have we really sanctified his Sabbath day? Have we really sanctified ourselves? Or do we look at his Sabbath as a burden because it's stopping you from doing what you want to really do? Which, if that's the case, you shouldn't even keep it, because you're not keeping it in your heart. Though you feel like you're keeping it because you're performing the action. But your heart is not set and your heart is not right. So therefore your keeping of it is in actuality in vain. You have to consider that. Deuteronomy 7:25? The graven images of their gods shall you burn with fire. Thou shalt not desire the silver or the gold that is on them, nor take it unto thee, lest thou be snared therein, for it is an abomination to Yahuwah thy Elohim. Neither shalt thou bring abomination into thy house, lest thou be a cursed thing like it. But thou shalt utterly detest it, thou shalt utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing. Now look at it, he said you should not bring any abomination into your house. And we talk about it, come back to 2 Kings 15. We talk about that loosely. How I tell you that in Job, about not bringing those things in your tabernacle, knowing, and we kind of talked about that last week, knowing that whosoever defile the temple of Elohim, Elohim shall destroy. Because your body is the temple of Elohim. So what are you bringing abominable into his house? He say anything abominable you shall utterly detest it. It says ye that love Yahuwah love the good and hate the evil. So you should hate anything profane. You should hate all abominations, whether it's sowing discord, whether it's shedding innocent blood, whether it's the evil, devising wicked imaginations, or feet swift to run into mischief, or false witness that tell lie, or a proud look, or idols, or divorce, Any of these things that this man is deemed to be abominable, all unrighteousness is deemed to be abominable. You do not want that to be in your mortal body, because the book has already told you what Elohim has spoken on these things, as far as it comes to when you make a decision on what you're going to do in a particular situation. If the master's already told you in Luke chapter 14, let's get Luke 14 on general principle. Hello? Don't have a breath. Luke chapter 14 and verse 26. Make it 25. This the cost. Are you going to pay it? And there went a great multitude with them, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, and yea, his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Whosoever doth not bear his stake and come after me cannot be my disciple. That man say you cannot even learn from him if you do not put these people behind him. Now we have to ask ourselves, how many times, let's go get Galatians chapter 1, because that's another thing where we sit back and look at. We talked about it the other day. Are you being pressured into doing what people want you to do, or are you going to do what the words say do? Because how many of us can say we have made decisions based on pleasing other people that would cause you to get outside this man's word? Because remember what he said in Deuteronomy 13, sometimes he's sending this stuff through to test you, to try you, to see if you love him or not. Galatians 1 and 10. If he say, for do I now persuade men or Elohim? Or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Mashiach. Are we seeking to please men, or are you seeking to please Elohim? That's why he say, how can you receive honor? He said, you seek honor one from another, and not the honor that comes from Elohim only, because you seeking to please men. This man told you you got to hate your own wife and your own husband also. You got to do that. Meaning, I'm not going to put you before the word. I'm not going to do that in any situation or circumstance. And you have to ask yourself, am I making decisions to please men when I ought to? Let's look at something Peter said in Acts chapter 5 real quick. Let's look at the statement Peter said. This is how you ought to live your whole entire life. I don't care what your people come at you with. I don't care what your wife come at you with. I don't care what your kids come at you with. I don't care what your job come at you with. I don't care what nobody come at you with. This entire statement of what Peter is about to say out of his mouth and how you ought to live your life. Acts chapter 5, verse 26. Then went the captain with the officers and brought them without violence, for they feared the people lest they should have been stoned. And when they had brought them, they set them before the council, and the high priest asked them, saying, did we not straitly command you that you should not teach in this name? And behold, you have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine, and intend to bring this man's blood upon us. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey Elohim rather than men. You ought to obey Elohim rather than a man. This is what the law teaches you. This is what Mashiach taught you. This is what the apostles taught. So you have to look at that. It's better for you to obey Yah than man. So I don't care what your people talking about. I don't care what your spouse talking about. I don't care what your kids talking about. I don't care what your job talking about. Are you going to obey Elohim, or are you going to obey man? Are you going to keep this man day Kadesh and sanctified, or are you going to profane it? And not just the seventh day, but every day you walk around representative of him, saying that you are the house or the temple of Elohim and he lives in you. Because if you go back, he said, if I rebuild the things that I've destroyed, I make myself a transgressor and ought to be destroyed. So we have to consider that. Are you more concerned if someone is upset with you for standing on the word? Or are you more concerned with making them happy and having Yah displeased with you? Who do you care about being more displeased with you? The man whom your salvation emanates from, or somebody who is of flesh and blood and dust and ashes, who has to stand before the very man whom salvation emanates from? Who would you want to be displeased with you? Why would you care about somebody being displeased with you who got to stand before the same throne of judgment as you do? That doesn't make any sense. I don't care about you being. You'll get over it. You know what I'm talking about? They will get over it. I know my people got over it. I missed a lot of events. After a while, they just got over it. That nigga's just not coming. There's no even sense to get upset about it. He's not coming. Do you know what I'm saying? For real. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's some certain stuff they be like, yeah, you come through. When the sun, I ain't even coming to the Sabbath over with. Because it ain't just about, oh, I got the preaching, it's over with. When the Sabbath over, then I'll come. Sabbath ain't over, I'm not coming. I don't care. Woo around there, I don't care what you doing. He said, shall ye have fellowship with the throne of iniquity? I am good, my nigga. I'm telling you, man, I forgot a pretty nigga like, yeah, Uncle Greg asked about you. Shoot, that nigga know where I stay at. He wanted to see you. Clearly, he didn't want to see me that bad. He didn't want to see me that bad. He didn't get his black behind around here. So he didn't want to see a nigga. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole lot of stuff be going down on the Sabbath, man. Just on stuff you be wanting to do. What you gonna do? I had to think about that man, that Nas concert and all that junk on the Sabbath. That junk started at 6 o'clock. I say, man, if I go, boy, that nigga gonna be fashionably late. I'm not finna slide to no concert and be like, well, I got finished preaching, so it don't make no difference. It's still the Sabbath. It's still the Sabbath. Yeah, I want to hear Lauren here. Maybe she'll sing "Old Jerusalem" or something. Sing "I Get Out" and all of that there in the third. But shoot, nigga, I'm not gonna see this nigga till this man's Sabbath day over with. Because at that point, I'm doing that for myself. And I might as well had just went out to the beach and hit the mall and did everything else. Because that one small bit is the same as just disregarding the whole day. If we're going to sanctify ourselves, let's sanctify ourselves in righteousness completely. If we're not going to set ourselves apart, then let's just go ahead and live in the world like with the rest of them and get ready to meet that judgment. Back to 2 Kings 15. I'll deal with that in a minute. 15:8. It said, the 38th year of Azariah, Malach of Yehuda, did Zechariah the son of Jeroboam reign over Yasharal in Samaria 6 months. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, as his fathers had done. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Yasharal to sin. And Shalom the son of Jabesh conspired against him, and smote him before the people, and slew him, and reigned in his stead. And the rest of the acts of Zechariah, behold, they are written in the books of the chronicles of the Malachs of Yasharal. So this boy to come through and just murk the king and dip. This was the word of Yahuwah which he spake unto Yehu, saying, thy son shall sit on the throne of Yasharal unto the 4th generation. And so it came to pass. Shalom the son of Jabesh began to reign in the 9th and 30th year of Uzziah, Malach of Yehuda, and he reigned a full month in Samaria. For Menahem the son of Gadi went up to Tisrah and came to Samaria and smote Shalom the son of Jabesh in Samaria and slew him and reigned in his stead. And the rest of the acts of Shalom and his conspiracy which he made, behold, they are written in the book of the chronicles of the Malachs of Yasharal. And that's the one thing you sit back and look at it too. And the reason why I mention this here is these men are kings and everybody out trying to kill them. Because everybody wants their spot. And that's the thing you have to sit back and look at, right? Is that anytime you have a particular position, you're in a particular situation, people usually want to be in that situation, and they have no problem. They have no problem killing you and taking that position. And what's somebody doing, man? Sound like they biting on popcorn or something. Nevertheless, yeah, his story doesn't go any further either. Verse 16. He said, then Menahem smote Tispah and all that were therein, and the coast thereof from Tisrah, because they opened not to him. Therefore he smote it. And all the women therein that were with child he ripped up. And in the 9th and 30th year of Azariah, Malach of Yehuda, began Menahem the son of Gadi to reign over Yasharal. And he reigned 10 years in Samaria, and he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and he departed not all his days from the sin of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Yasharal to sin. And Pul the king of Assyria came against the land, and Menahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver, that his hand might be with him to confirm the kingdom in his hand. And Menahem exacted the money of Yasharal, even all the mighty men of wealth, each man 50 shekels of silver, to give to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria turned back and stayed there not in the land. Well, let's look at his decision making in this particular instance, and let's look at what he did. Let's see what the word says when it comes down to what he should do. Come over here to the book of Deuteronomy, I want to say. Deuteronomy. I've got to see which chapter I want. The verse of the words are in my head. Let's look at Deuteronomy 1 and 21. And as a matter of fact, Deuteronomy 3 might be even better. Let's look at Deuteronomy 3 and 20. Deuteronomy 3 and 20 is better. Let's look at what the word, because what he basically did is he took this money to pay off someone from crashing him. Listen what he said, right? Make it about 18. Deuteronomy 3 and 18. And I command you at the time, saying, Yahuwah your Elohim have given you this land to possess it. You shall pass over armed before your brethren, the children of Yasharal, all that are meet for the war. But your wives and your little ones and your cattle, for I know that you have much cattle, shall abide in your cities which I have given you. Until Yahuwah have given you rest unto your brethren, as well as unto you. And until they also possess the land which Yahuwah your Elohim have given them beyond Jordan, then you shall return every man unto his possession, which I have given you. And I commanded Yahusha at that time, saying, Thy eyes have seen all that Yahuwah your Elohim have done unto these two Malaks, so shall Yahuwah do unto all the kingdoms whither thou pass. Ye shall not fear them, for Yahuwah your Elohim, he shall fight for you. And I besought Yahuwah at that time, saying, O Yahuwah Elohim, thou hast begun to show thy servant thy greatness and thy mighty hand. For what Elohim is there in Shamahim or in Arats that can do according to thy works and according to thy might? So the first thing that this man here had supposed to done was to seek after Yahuwah first to fight this battle. But instead he took money out to cause this person to come. And he took the and the first part about it is that he took it from all the mighty men of wealth. So he went to all the people and extracted money from the people to pay off Assyria from fighting against him. And this is an example of one of the reasons why he did. Of course we know why he was doing this, because he's a sinner. So he probably had in his mind, Yah's not with him. So he made his next mistake. It's that even in the face of adversity, he didn't do like Ahab sat back and he besought Yahuwah when he was in trouble. And Yahuwah hearkened unto him because he humbled himself. Manasseh did the same thing. And Yahuwah hearkened unto him because he humbled himself. The book says that a man of a humble and contrite spirit, Yahuwah will not despise. He will hearken unto that. And that's another reason why a lot of people, he don't hearken to a lot of people, because you are not really humble and you're not really contrite. You're probably more sad than anything that somebody knows. See, a lot of people are only sorry because they got caught, not sorry because of what they've done. That's what the book goes in to talk about. We talked about godly sorrow before, and how the sorrow of the world bring forth death. Godly sorrow worketh repentance unto salvation, not to be repented of. And we know that David is an example of godly sorrow. You so sad about the act that you did that was contrary to the word that you would never, ever, ever do it again. It ain't no I felt bad for 20 minutes and then I go back and do it 2-3 days later or 2-3 weeks later, because you really weren't sorrowful. You were trying to convince your own self in your own mind that you were sorry, and trying to pull a fast one over Yahuwah as if he don't know the intentions of your heart, because he already know you were going to go back and do it again anyway. Godly sorrow, you don't do it again, because you have to sit back and look at it. If you do something contrary to the word, that sorrow that you feel, you should be like, I never want to feel this ever again. That's why he said, you be ashamed, O house of Yasharal. He said, but you have a whore's forehead. You refuse to be ashamed. And that's Jeremiah chapter 3, if you just think I just pulled out my book. That's what I said. He said, you have a whore's forehead. You refuse to be ashamed. Meaning you stubborn. Just like we talked about the other day in Proverbs 30. He said, an adulterous woman wipeth her mouth and say, I've done nothing amiss. I ain't did nothing wrong. I ain't eat them cookies. I didn't eat your cake. Icing all on your face. But you ain't did nothing wrong. Stuff like that. That'll get you burned. It's all about your heart and what the state of your heart is and how you make decisions. This man knew he out here. He living any kind of way. He around here serving golden calves. He ain't departing from idolatry. And then when King of Syria rose up, did he seek Yahuwah? No. He sought to buy them off. And that's what a lot of us sit back and we look at. We don't examine what does the text do. We get in trouble and we seek for natural things to deliver us when you should be seeking after your Elohim. It's him that fights for you. If don't nobody else fight for you, he gonna do it. Let's keep on going and look at the next king in the 23rd verse. Oh, I didn't even get to that part with him ripping up the children, whipping up the women with child. That should also make you think about the beast. How the book tell you in Zechariah 14, there will ravish your women. This is why he say, pray that you don't be with child in those days. You know how strong that got to be for you to rip up the women with children? Hold on, man. Let's see what it translates to. Because, boy, you got to be a cold-blooded nigga to do that right there. A cold-blooded individual. He ain't got no love for nobody. A lot of people don't. Let's look at this here real quick, man, in verse 16. All the women that were with child, the word is hara, and of course it's pregnant. You know, but we gotta fact check, gotta make sure. And when we look at ripped up, the word is bakah, and it is to cut into pieces or to rend open, to break through, to break down, to be ripped open, to be torn open, to break into, to split, and to cleave. Took the women that were with child and ripped them up. So we already know he's not operating on any. None of what he did allowed him to be sanctified. None of what he did allowed him to esteem Elohim. He definitely was causing all the people to stumble based on his behavior, and he certainly was wouldn't want anybody to follow that example. And clearly he didn't care if anybody knew this was his choice. And this is just reiterating all the verses that we went through Wednesday about the test on how we make decisions. And the verses that we referenced on Wednesday just for is 2 Timothy 3:16 about knowing what the word states about, the word is profitable for doctrine, instruction in righteousness, for correction, for reproof and rebuke, that the man of Elohim be made perfect. And then if you want somebody to know it, and that's Proverbs 11:3, and about the following the example, 1 Timothy 4:12 we just looked at, is you being spirit led of people pressure, and that's Galatians 1:10. And then the stumbling is Romans 14:21. And then did you pray and receive peace about your decision? That's Philippians 4:6. And then the sanctification through Mashiach, 2 Corinthians 3:18. And then 1 Corinthians 10:31 to do these actions, esteem Elohim. Everything that we should do. And this is why I say the separate, and we probably not going to get to that tonight, the separation of the nephesh and the ruach. Because one, you could sit back and you could look at each king and what we look at their behavior. Their behavior was based off the seat of the appetites and emotions. I guess we can work it a little bit. Come over here to Romans chapter 8. This is why the master told you got to be born again, because that which is flesh, and that which is ruach is ruach. You have to go from nephesh to ruach. You can't continue to move being carnal. You think carnally, you're going to get carnally. And we'll get Galatians chapter 6 to go behind with this. Romans 8:5. Listen what it tell you. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the ruach, the things of the ruach. What are the things that are after the flesh? We mention these things so much because we always need to be cognizant and aware of these things, only because your adversary will seek to use these things against you, and you can't be ignorant of the devices of which he come up to you. When you in a weak state, this is when Satan is going to come with what you desire or what you like. When you're in a confused state, You know what I'm talking about? Whatever. This is when he gonna come with it. Because 9 times out of 10, human beings are creatures of habit. You will fall back into what you're comfortable with. You'll go back to what you know. That's why when dudes get out of jail and they try to get a job and they ain't got no job for a certain period of time, that's why they say the recidivism rate is so high. Because they go back to what they know. And you in the battle of fighting on that you got to maintain that you stay fast in the ruach, or else if you get in a weak state, you will fall back into your flesh and you will fall back to what you know to seek comfort from that versus seeking comfort from Elohim as you're supposed to. When you see Mashiach, who were flesh and blood as we are at that particular point, praying that he didn't want that he wanted that cup to pass, he got strengthened because he remained in the ruach. He did not allow his flesh to overtake him and cause his decision making to fall, which is comfortable, because the flesh likes to go against the will of Elohim. The flesh will always lead. That's how you know if it's the flesh or not. The flesh will always take you outside the will of Yah. Outside of it. That's why when we know, that's what you can sit back and you can look at, like in 1 Kings 13, with the prophet, the man from Yehuda, and the old man. He allowed the desire for water and bread to dictate what he was supposed to do. He didn't follow and stay in the ruach. He stayed with the seat of the appetite and in his emotions, because this man said he was a prophet and he wanted some bread and he wanted some water, versus Yah telling him, don't you drink nothing or eat nothing in this place. He allowed that appetite or that desire to overtake. It cost him his life. And that's an example. When you think according to the flesh, you cannot please this man. And I also use that man from Yehuda as an example. If you started in Yahuwah, he ain't finna send you nothing to get you outside of him. For him to turn back to get to work to bring you back in when you don't need to be going outside of him. When you already know what it is. You need to be staying in that. So that means we need to stop thinking so carnally. Stop thinking according to your desires and your emotions. And stop allowing that to dictate your decision making. That's what the hindrance for most people is. That's why they look at them keeping the commands, but you're doing it from a carnal mind state. Because if you're doing it from a carnal mind state, that means the mind of faith has not actually been developed. Because a mind of faith developed, that mind goes from being carnal to being spiritual. There's no longer people pressure. There's no longer I'm trying to please this person or that person. It's a straight steadfastness on the word, and I could care less who is offended and who don't like it and who I may lose. Because you have a natural family, you have a spiritual family. If your natural family ain't in the word, they going to hell. You know what I'm saying? That's why he told you can't, because he's sanctifying you. He's called. That's why he say make your vocation sure. Walk worthy of your vocation or your invitation or your calling. Are you walking worthy of your calling? This man the master told these people in Revelation chapter 3, he said, man, he said, your works ain't perfect, man. I have some things against you. He said, you're doing a lot of good things, but I still got some things against you. We can see that with just sitting at the king that we just looked at. You're doing some things that's right, but I still got some things against you. Matter of fact, we'll deal with that. Let me read this. What did I come over here for? Oh, I was just finna take a dip into Galatians 5. When we look at all these things of the flesh, you know, the envyings and the murders and the drunkenness and the revilings and the word with the hatred and the emulations and wrath and strife and heresies and fornication and all of these things. And these are things of the flesh. Hold on, right? Who that was, that king we were looking at? Azariah. Come over here to Revelation chapter 3. Because Azariah did those things which were right in the eyesight of Yah, but yet he let the people sacrifice in high places, so he got smote with that leprosy because he still had something against him. Revelation 3 and 2. So you have to sit back and look at that. Don't be comfortable and feeling like, well, I'm doing this and doing that, but you're not doing this and doing this, so he got something against you. So he's trying to give you that space for you to get it together. Because listen what he tell him. Be watchful and strengthen the things that which remain that are ready to die, for I have not found thy works perfect before Elohim. You got to make sure to strengthen the things that are ready to die. You sat back and you seen that with Mashiach himself. That he came and strengthened the thing that which was ready to die, so that his works could be made perfect or complete or mature in Elohim. There are things in some of us that need to be strengthened so that they can be killed. You haven't mortified it, you ain't killed it. So therefore your works are not perfect. Let's look at what he tells you. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard. So he said you need to remember how you received your invitation, how you heard your invitation, and hold fast and to turn from whatever it is that needs to die. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. And you have to sit back and look at it, right? Come on back to Romans chapter 8. Him coming on you as a thief ain't just talking about him coming on you when he returned. He could snatch your life from you right now. Right now. He came on Azariah and slapped him with leprosy. He got off light. You might not get slapped with leprosy. You might get slapped out of here. So you got to be watchful. You need to watch. You need to strengthen those things that are ready to die. Because he say he got something somewhat against you. That's showing you the mercy of Elohim right there. Because he come and telling them, I got something against you. He said, man, I hope you don't hit. I need you to be watchful. He said, and you need to remember what you received and what you heard. And you need to hold it fast. And you need to repent. He said, because if you don't, I'm going to come upon you when you're not ready. You don't want to be like that dude in Matthew 22 with the wrong garment on. Sitting there speechless, looking crazy, looking stupid. Romans 8 and 5, though, right? For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the ruach, the things of the ruach. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and shalom. But the carnal mind is enmity against Elohim, for it is not subject to the law of Elohim, neither indeed can be. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please Elohim. And as we've looked at a majority of all these kings, all of them were carnal, and none of them pleased Elohim. Even Yahuwah ended up not pleasing Elohim. Anything that is from the seat of the appetites and the seat of the emotions, you're not going to please him. As forth if your works is concerned. That's why the book tell you to bring every thought into captivity to the obedience of Mashiach. Because he told you that in Psalms, he knows our form, we're just dust. He knows this. You know what I'm saying? So the purpose of it is, like we mentioned Wednesday, allowing that a grafted word which is able to save your soul to receive it. And allow that word to become one with you. Not just some saying, like not just saying, because if you lay it up in your heart and you meditate it on day and night and you thinking about Yahuwah all the time, then this is what ends up dictating your decisions and your thoughts will change. But if you think about what you can do or what you can't do or how you can try to get around this and get around that, or you're not going to be saved. You're not going to receive the thing that you're seeking after. You're not going to receive the thing that you're seeking after. Because you're not really seeking after Yahuwah. You don't really want the reward for that he has to offer. You just want to be able to commit your sin and convince yourself that you're going to receive the reward irregardless of your disobedient behavior. And that is not wisdom. Back to 2 Kings chapter 15. I'll get that Galatians 6 in a moment. Let's look at this next. Let's look at a couple more of these kings. Let's look at a couple more of them. We got a few before one of these dudes' stories get long. He said, in the 50th year of Azariah Malach of... I'm sorry, this is verse 23. In the 50th year of Azariah Malach of Yehuda, Pekahiah the son of Menahem began to reign over Yasharal and Samaria and reigned 2 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and he departed not from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Yasharal to sin. Pekah the son of Remaliah, a captain of his, conspired against him and smote him in Samaria, and the palace of the Malach's house, with Argob and Ariah, and with him 50 men of the Gildites, and he killed him and reigned in his room. And the rest of the acts of Pekah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the malice of Yasharal. And you see a common theme with every last one of these kings. They were all disobedient, and Yah had somebody to rise up to slay them. He had somebody to rise up to slay him. And it also takes us back to what's written in Job. The children of the wicked are made for the sword. Because all of these men, for all intents and purposes, are going to go back to Jeroboam, son of Nebat. And if they don't go back to him physically, they definitely go back to him spiritually, because they walk in his footsteps. And they all got slayed. You have one king reign for 30 days. 30 days. Let's look at another king, the man who killed Pekahiah. We're in verse 27. And in the 52nd year of Azariah, Malach of Yehuda, Pekah the son of Remaliah began to reign over Yasharal and Samaria, and reigned 20 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and he departed not from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Yasharal to sin. In the days of Pekah, Malach of Yasharal, came Tiglath-Pileser, Malach of Assyria, and took Ijon and Abel Bathmach and Yanoah and Kadesh and Hazar and Gilead and Galilee and all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria. And Hoshea son of Elah made conspiracy against Pekah the son of Remaliah, and smote him and slew him, and reigned in his stead. And the 20th year Jotham the son of Uzziah, and the rest of the acts of Pekah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Malice of Yasharal. This nigga was so wicked, and the things that he did, it got people taken captive. Now there's a reason why we're going to sit back and look at that. Let's come over here to 2 Peter chapter 3. And after that, I want to say 1 Timothy chapter 4. And this is all this stuff you sitting by looking at. They losing their life based on their decision making, their carnal decisions cost them their life. But with Pekah, it affected other people. It's a common thing amongst most people in Yasharal in these days and times. So they talking about, saying a woman needs a covering, she needs a head, and things of this nature. And when it comes to things spiritually, because at the end of the day, as a woman, you got to be able to know the word for yourself, and to follow it for yourself, that you should be doing this irregardless of the man that you're with. So, but it also shows, I mentioned that there because, dudes scream that, but it is still very imperative spiritually. Because if you're married to a buffoon, a spiritual buffoon, let me put it that way, because you could have somebody on a natural level, they could be very intelligent and very wise and very sharp in what they got going on, but we talk about a spiritual buffoon, a spiritual imbecile, an idiot, if you will. And this would be the man leading you and your children straight to hell. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it ain't like with Abigail and Nabal. 9 times out of 10, Abigail was given to Nabal. Yasharal didn't get to pick these kings. These kings killing each other, taking over, leading them all astray. It got these people taken captive because of it. Now you in a time frame where you actually can choose who is going to direct. It ain't no different than somebody teaching your word too. So, I mean, for me, they coincide. It's one and the same. They're not the same because you married to somebody don't mean he can teach you the word. But they one and the same. There's a person directing, guiding, protecting, and watching over or overseeing a household. And if this man is an imbecile, he'll kill everybody. You know what I'm saying? Just kill everybody. We've seen that. Whether it's, what's his name? Man, his name escapes me right now. Achan, Korah. These imbeciles, these idiots got numerous people killed because of their decision making. Spiritual decision making. Again, we talking about spiritual decision making. That should be imperative. It's no different than a woman. You should want a woman the way you ain't got to look at her like what Job told his wife and say, you talking like one of them foolish women talking. That's if we say we seek to be a spiritual people. Now, if you don't seek to be a spiritual person, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's no different than with your friends, your peer group. You should want spiritual people in your peer group, because they can impart spiritual things unto you. Things of substance. Things that hold weight. Things that you can take with you long after they're gone. But we choose to do how we choose to do it. It is what it is. What do we want here? 2 Peter chapter 3. We'll take about I'll take verse 10. This is what he's telling them, right? But chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness, despise government, presumptuous are they, self-willed. They are not afraid to speak evil of dignities. We dealt with that before. They're not afraid to speak evil of authority, not afraid to speak against Yahuwah and blaspheme his name. He said they walk in the lust of the flesh and uncleanliness and despise authority. When we look at all of these malice and all of these kings, they despise this man's authority. We have to be careful that we're not walking in the lust of uncleanness and despising this man's authority. Whereas Malachim, which are greater in power and might, bring not a railing accusation against them before Yahuwah. But these are natural brute beasts made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption. And they shall receive the reward of unrighteousness, as they count it pleasure to riot in the daytime. Spots they are, and blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceivings while they feast with you, having eyes full of adultery that cannot cease from sin, beguiling unstable souls. And heart they have exercised with covetous practices, cursed children. Now we know what the curse is. Mashiach has lifted up the curse, and which is death. The soul that sin, it shall die. So is sin is what, and let's go back to what we read in Deuteronomy 7 about not bringing any abominations into your house. Don't allow sin. It goes back to Romans chapter 6. Do not allow sin to reign in your mortal body. Don't bring cursed things into your house. Don't bring envyings and murders and drunkenness and revilings and deceit and heresies and sedations and lasciviousness and fornication and maliciousness and spitefulness and covenant breaking and being pleasers of yourself more than pleasers of Elohim and lovers of themselves. And all of these things, do not bring these cursed things into your tabernacle. Don't bring them in. Don't bring them in. Because if you're bringing these things in, they're going to affect your decision making, because you are a nephesh. You are not a ruach. You are not moving according to the mind and word of Elohim. You're moving according to your appetites and your emotions. This is what we just dealt with last week about if you be a man given the appetite, put a knife to your throat. If you're given over to your desires and the things that will turn you outside, well, 2 weeks ago, that turn you outside the will of Elohim, that is a problem. You have to know how to fight. You don't know how to fight because you not reading and applying the word. This man say you are strong or full age and ready for strong meat by reason of usage. So when you find yourself not able to discern between good and evil, it's because you're not using the word. You're not using it. And you have to assess that. Why am I not using it? Because if you're not using it, it's your fault. It's not my fault. It's not the person sitting next to your fault. It's not y'all's fault. Because if you being taught the word and you not using it, the responsibility leaves with you. See, the only time the responsibility don't leave with you is if the burden is not being removed, because the word is not, the means of your banishment, which is getting you banished and separating from Yah, is not being manifested unto you. But if it's being manifested unto you, then the responsibility rests with you. Why are you not using it? Why do you not believe it? Why are you not walking in it? And instead of being embarrassed, you need to actually express those things so that the people around. See, I know why people don't want to express, because you feel like people going to laugh at you and talk about you, because you feel like, oh, don't nobody care. But guess what? I think that's how a majority of people walk around feeling, and that's why don't nobody express nothing, and that's why nobody can get healed to fix these things. The book say, pray for one another and confess your faults one to another that you may be healed. If somebody actually, because I'm telling you, I'll go off on a nigga if a nigga's clowning you or think it's funny because you are expressing my faith is not strong, or I have this issue here because you're expressing this for one reason and one reason alone. I want my soul saved. If anybody could not understand that, then there's something seriously wrong with them, and they might need to get from round. Because it's about people's souls getting saved. It's not about laughing, that nigga got a problem masturbating or lying or this, that, then, the third. That's not funny. We might clown about certain stuff, but in reality, you say, I have a problem with this. That's not funny. We're supposed to be to heal one another so he could get this sin up off of him. You know what I'm saying? You got to ask yourself, how many of y'all even pray for each other? I ain't even talking about praying in a group. I'm talking about when you by yourself, how many of y'all pray for each other? Why should anybody even ask you to pray for them and you're not already doing it? It's one thing if somebody say, hey, I really want you to pray for me about this. Versus somebody say, man, if somebody asks you, did you pray for them? Do you pray for them? And you were like, no. And you've been knowing them all the time? And they got to ask you for it? To ask you to do that? You're supposed to be praying for each other anyway. Anyway. Or do you only pray for the people you like? Or the people you talk to on a regular basis? Y'all don't operate like that. He say he don't pray for them. He pray for the. He don't say he don't pray for the world. He pray for those that are his. So, especially if you've been immersed, you're supposed to be considered one of the family. How you don't pray for and care about somebody whom you say you family with? Because if you've been put in that water, you in machine. Anybody who ain't been immersed, technically, they not part of the family. Because they haven't taken hold of the covenant. So technically, they're not even part of the family. Somebody who that's supposed to be your brother in Mashiach, your sister in Mashiach. You don't pray for them. You don't care about them. You're not concerned about their soul. I don't care how you might feel, how they operate or behave. That's immaterial. Even if they wicked, we already read on that. Go ahead and pray for them anyway. Bless them anyway. Give them something to eat when they hungry and give them a glass of milk when they thirsty. That's what Jael did before she dropped that nail in that nigga forehead. Nevertheless, drop down about verse 18. He said, for when they speak great swelling words of vanity, they allure through the lust of the flesh, through much wantonness, those that were clean escape from them who live in error. See, that's the thing it is. He great swelling words of nothing. And they seek to persuade you to go after your flesh. But guess what? Just like it tell you in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, the woman's heart's like snares and nets, and her heart's like bands. And he say, he that please Elohim shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. He say, you live clean, you escape from them that live in error. And you see that all the time throughout the book. You seen he allowed David to escape from Saul because he lived in error. You seen he allowed Yasharal to escape from Mizraim because they lived in error. You seen he allowed Yasharal to escape from Esau because Esau lived in error. You see, Mashiach was able to escape from death, escape from the adversary, because they lived in error. So you have to think about that. You have to think about the people around you. Are they trying to, and the people who you may hear preach the word, are they trying to allure you or to entice you through the lust of the flesh? Anybody that's trying to appeal to your flesh is not of God. Period. I don't care who they are. It could be your great grandmammy. It could be your child. It could be your husband. It could be your daddy. I don't care who it is. If they trying to persuade and entice you through your flesh, they are not of God. Period. He don't operate like that. You're supposed to have enough wisdom to know that. I don't care who it is. So if you know they trying to allure you through the lust of your flesh, why would you entertain it? Much less agree to it. This is when he said in verse 19. He said, while they promise them freedom, they themselves are the servants of corruption, for whom a man is overcome, the same is he brought into bondage. If Mashiach said he'll make you free indeed, then why would you sit back and listen to somebody who's trying to promise you freedom through the very thing that got you in bondage, which is death, by having you stay to your flesh, when the book said carnal mind is death? How is that possible? Does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. So you have to think about that. You have to consider that in every decision that you make, every move that you make. You have to pay attention what people saying out of their mouth. They trying to take you captive. These people around here promising you freedom, but they really trying to keep you captive. Because he say that he that commits sin shall not enter into the house. You already know that. He put Ishmael out. Bondwoman, captive, put the bondwoman and her child out. Do not allow any preacher, do not allow any person, do not allow anything to take your freedom from you. Ain't none of y'all out here committing no crime because you don't want to go to jail. You don't want your freedom taken from you. But you ain't finna ain't none of y'all finna let nobody talk you into selling no drugs. You ain't finna let nobody talk you into robbing no bank. You ain't finna let nobody talk you into no murder. You ain't finna let nobody talk you into no check scheme, no scam, no none of that. None of that. None of that. But yet you let people talk you into losing your freedom with Yahuwah by committing sin. How is that wisdom? Now, I just want y'all to think about that, how dumb that sounds. Because ain't none of y'all finna let nobody take you. I ain't going to jail. I ain't going to jail. I can't lose my freedom. You losing your freedom in your Elohim, though. Nevertheless, 1 Timothy chapter 4, man. You know, it might be 2 Timothy chapter 4. I just want you to consider, man. Think about that, man. Think about that. Don't let nobody take you. You should look at the freedom of your soul the same way you look at your natural freedom. The Son said, "If the Son shall make you free, you shall be free indeed." So if you've been released from the bondage and shackles of sin and death, how you gonna let a nigga convince you to go back to jail? How you gonna let a nigga convince you to go back to jail? You gonna let a nigga convince you to go back to jail? Well, I've been out of prison 8 years. A nigga can't convince me to sell NyQuil in a room full of sick people, baby powder to children, nothing. I ain't selling nigga nothing that's gonna get me. I'm not going back to prison. I'm not finna be in no room with no 72 dudes. I'm not going back through that. I'm not finna subject myself to the humiliation of the intake that you got to go through that reception center. I'm not finna subject myself to that. I'm not finna subject myself to these people constant threats of abuse and disrespect and belittlement that they like to throw on people. I'm not subjecting myself to that. So I've been made free. On a natural sense of when they let me out of that prison on April 1st, 2009. So then you turn around and you looking at Yahuwah by Hashem Yahusha has made me free through the blood of his son, and you think I'm gonna go back to bondage? You think I'm finna let a nigga convince me to go back to jail? Think about that. That's why he say, do I yet please men, or do I please Elohim? Are you gonna let somebody convince you to go back to jail? I would hope not. 2 Timothy chapter 4, man. I look right at it. It might be chapter 3. It is chapter 3. I'm just an idiot. 3 and 1. 2 Timothy 3 and 1. And it says, "This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unkadesh, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady." And you've seen that with all those men, whether it was Shalom, whether it was Pekah or Pekah, they were all traitors. See, a traitor is a look at here, bro. That's how you know when the last day come, because they're gonna be Judases out here. But before Judas, let me mention all these men's names again, because I don't want to leave not nan one of them out. Every one of them that pulled a move. We got Shalom, a Shalom. What did he was? A traitor. We got Menahem, a traitor. We got Pekah, a traitor. You know what I'm saying? A traitor. You got Hoshea, a traitor. You got Judas, a traitor. Now let's just pull the word for traitor up in Greek, just because I feel like doing so at that particular time. Let's see what we get for it. I will hope everybody knows what it, and y'all know what it is, a betrayer. in the sense of giving forward into another's the enemy's hand. So anybody who's enticing you to commit sin is a betrayer. They're a traitor. You know what I'm saying? Because they're seeking to give you into the enemy's hand. And that enemy is death. Which means they're seeking to give you over to the adversary so that you could, Matthew chapter 25. That's what they're trying to do to you now. That's why the book say, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. 25 and 41. Matthew 25 and 41. Then shall he say unto them on the left hand, depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his malachim. Remember, we talked about that. Don't bring nothing cursed into your house. For when I was hungered, you gave me no meat, and I was thirsty, you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, you took me not in. Naked, you clothed me not. Sick and in prison, you visited me not. Then shall they answer him, saying, Master, when saw we thee a hungered, or thirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Truly I say unto you, inasmuch as you did it not to one of the least of these, you did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous unto life eternal. Come on back to 2 Timothy. You gonna allow somebody, and some of y'all traitors, some of y'all will betray. That's what I mentioned earlier too, when we talking about not delivering your secret to another. Not delivering a person into the assembly, into the hand of someone who would seek to destroy them. Not to be a traitor. A turncoat, if you will. A Benedict Arnold. Verse 4 again. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of Elohim. And I think that's what most people's biggest problem is. They love to please their desires and to please their flesh more than they want to please Yah. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. And the point what he's making is, he says, this type of man grabs a silly woman. Now let's just go ahead and pull what these words say in that particular verse. He said a creep. We look at that word creep. That's to develop or to hide in or to literally put on a garment or insinuate oneself into or to enter. Figuratively, sneak up on you. That's what the adversary like to do, sneak up on you. Cloak himself in a different form than what he really is. And then when we look at leading captive, just to take captive or to capture, because I can't pronounce the Greek word, so I'm not even going to attempt to do so. When we look at this Greek word for silly women, it's a little woman or a diminutive or basically, i.e., a foolish woman. Now, let's see what some of the things the text says about a foolish woman. Let's see what the text says in a few places about a few foolish woman in the book of Proverbs. We'll pull a couple of them out. Number one, you need to remember what Proverbs 9. So let's get Proverbs 9 and we'll pick up about verse 6. Let's get Proverbs 9 and pick it up about verse 6. Proverbs 9 and about verse 6 probably be all we need. Proverbs 9 and 6 says, forsake the foolish and live and go on the way of understanding. That's the one thing I don't think some of y'all really understand. They say you got to forsake a fool to live and go on the way where the B'nai is or the inside is. But you got to forsake a fool. He that reprove a scorner get to himself a shame. He that rebuke a wicked man get himself a blot. Reprove not a scorner lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. The fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of Kadesh is understanding. For by me thy days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy life shall be increased. If thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself. But if thou scorn, thou alone shalt bear it. A foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple. She know nothing. She sit at the door of her house and in the seat of the high places of the city to call passengers who go right on their ways. Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. As for him that want understanding, she saith unto him, stolen waters are seat and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he know not that the dead are there, and her guests are the depths of hell. Now, let's look at this in our language. because there's a lot going on in that Proverb 9 before we slide up out of here. It's a lot going on, and this stuff will go back to being able to make a proper decision. The first thing it says about this foolish woman is that she's clamorous. The Hebrew word for clamorous in this verse is hamah, and it's to murmur or to growl or to cry aloud or to mourn or to rage or to be loud, boisterous and turbulent. Basically, a loud-mouthed woman. So it says a foolish woman is loud. Say she's simple. That word for simple is she's naive, silliness, easily to be seduced. And that's what we turn around and we see with Eve, that she sold herself to be a simple woman. She was naive. So she was easily seduced when the adversary came up and hit her with what she hit her with. That's why we read that the other day in 2 Corinthians 11, that you don't be hit with the that you don't be deceived by the subtlety like Eve was deceived of the serpent, but understand the simplicity of the word. But then it says she sits at the door of her house in the high places, and she called to the passengers, whoso is simple, he say, let him turn round them. So he say, and that's a fool, and the word is different here, it's pathé. It's a foolish man, an open-minded man, a simple one, a naive one. And what would make you simple? Because you have not seen what the word has already spoken. You don't care if anyone knows this is the choice that you made. You don't care if anybody follows that example. You're easily people pressured because you're turning in to listen to this stupid woman. You don't care if it caused anybody to stumble. You did not seek Yahuwah before you made that choice. You don't see if this will cause you to grow in Elohim, and you don't care if it will esteem Elohim, because all you care about as a man is doing what you want to do, and you're allowing this woman to take you into bondage. Going back to what I mentioned in Ecclesiastes chapter 7. But now she says stolen waters are sweet. When we look at this word stolen, it is something that is carried away, and it's ganav. Now we look at, she say stolen waters are sweet. We know that waters is going to be the ma'im. She say it's sweet though. Sweet or pleasing or sweet to the taste. I didn't tell you what the word was though. But then she noticed how she said that word is mathak. Then she said bread eaten in secret is pleasant. And we kind of talked about some secrecy last week. That word secret there is sathar. And it's a shelter, it's secrecy, it's a covering, it's a hiding place. It's protection. And then she says it's pleasant. It's beautiful, it's lovely. It's lovely. But you don't know that there's death there, and that her guests are the depths of Sheol or the grave, because these things look good to the eye. See, that's why it goes back to what John 6:63, and I have to hold off on that. I ain't gonna get to that tonight, or what I want to do with that. That it's the flesh profiteth nothing. It's the ruach that quickeneth. See, she told you that stolen waters are sweet, and this is present, this stolen, eating bread in secret is pleasant. And what is that? That's doing stuff in private and in secret. Again, what we were talking about earlier, when we talked about it Wednesday with the Proverbs 11. If you can't do, if you doing something and you don't want nobody to know about it, 9 times out of 10 you're probably wrong. Because there's nothing. Because remember, he said that Elohim did it. We dealt with that when he talking about that Yah showed the son everything that he did. He didn't hide anything from him. He didn't tell him anything in secret. He didn't show him anything in secret. He turned around in the 15th chapter of John and told the apostles, I show you everything that I do. You know what I'm saying? So we have to look at that and how we moving, and the things that we choose to do or the things that we choose not to do. But he said that you don't know that the dead are there. That word is Rapha, and it's deceased. It also has the word ghost, and also means dead, deceased, things of that nature. He also said, let's look at her guests. It says her guests. Doggone Wi-Fi, man. I'm finna get ready to round up because we about to touch the 11 o'clock hour. Ain't gonna keep you all night. When we look at guests, it's kara, and that's to call or to call out or to recite or to proclaim or to be read aloud, to be summoned, to be named, or to be bidden. So you don't know that the people are there were bidden to go there. They were called to go there. And of course you know that's Sheol, and that's the grave. So You don't know that the dead are there, and that those that are called there are in the depths of the grave. So the people who took of these stolen waters and said it was good for me to commit sin in secret and to try to cover it up, you didn't know that you were called to go there. Which goes back to what we mentioned earlier. Some people are called to go to what I mentioned to you about the Proverbs 1 and the 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and Isaiah 66 and the Psalms 81 about him giving you over to your desires, because since you therefore are turning in either because you're foolish and you're dumb and you want for that understanding, that's why you're turning into this foolish loud woman. It's because you were called to die. You were called to be taken captive. You were called to be taken captive. So then we have to sit back and look at, if you've been called to be made free, then you need to make decisions based off of what the word says to remain free, not to allow someone to stay. And that's what they said about looking at foolish women taken captive, laden with diverse sins. And we got to finish that out. What are you talking about on that? Say, lead captive silly women. And when he say laden, that's to heap up or to overwhelm or to load one's consciousness with many sins, and you led away with diverse lusts. And that's what a lot of men come in and they sit back and they play on that, and they look for that as they look for a woman who has a craving for diverse lusts and is not very wise and is not very spiritually intelligent, so that they can take her away by these particular things that they're carrying to the destruction of this woman, of what he mentioned, the natural, without the natural affection, and false accusers, and hating people that's good, and blaspheming and covetous, and all of these things that's contrary to the word. And because this woman is laden with all these diverse lusts and laden with these sins, and she's not wise, then that ends up being her destruction. As those captions of those text messages we seen with that lady and that dude talking, because we already know this here, right? If you sit back and look at it, if a strong man will not be intimidated by a woman of spiritual and mental strength, she'll do nothing but excite him and cause him to elevate himself. So he's not going to be intimidated, but he's not going to be turned back. He's not going to flee from that. A man who is of weak moral character, or weak spiritual character, weak-minded, seeks to control and lead. If she has any manner of strength, that intimidates him, and he's going to flee from that. He's going to run from that, because he can't take this woman and force her to do what he wants her to do when he wants her to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's a problem for him. That's why he says that these type of men who have these type of frailties within their thought process and in their mind, they're seeking for women like this to take them captive. So now you have to sit back and look at it as men included from the spiritual aspect, because you're members of his body. So therefore you are as if you are this woman, or you are as of Yasharal, and they're seeking. And truth be told, when we look at all of those kings who we looked at this evening, we seen that some were traitors. We seen that they were heady and high-minded. We seen they loved pleasure more than they loved Elohim. We see that they had no natural affection. We see that they were covenant breakers. Based on their behavior, they were blasphemers. They were definitely unkadash, definitely boasters, and definitely proud. And we seen what they did to Yasharal by having them continually to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat. And they took this woman captive because she was foolish and she had diverse lusts, and they were playing to these lusts. And because of the of Hoshay's behavior, it allowed these people to be taken captive. So therefore somebody had to come free these captives, of which we know this is what Yahushua came to do, to free the captives. Come on back to 2 Kings 15 and then John chapter 8, if I'm not mistaken. I think we done with the kings that we're going to touch tonight. Yeah, we're not going to get to Yotham tonight. We'll wait on Yotham. But remember what we just read in verse 29 of 2 Kings 15, that everybody, and Abel, Beth Makkah, and Yanoah, and Kadesh, and Hazar, and Gilead, and Galit, and all of Naphtali, all of them got carried away captive. They all got carried away captive. We'll finish with John chapter 8 and verse 30. And just, finish with John chapter 8 verse 30. Know that there's freedom in Mashiach, and you have to seek to be free. And the way that you can be free is by the choices and the decisions that you make. And that all your decisions need to be based off the test of what we looked at this evening and started on Wednesday. And that's, has he spoken on this? Would you be ashamed if someone knew that you made this decision? Would anybody follow your example? Are you persuaded by men? Are you persuaded by Elohim? Will this cause anyone to stumble? Did you seek Elohim before making the decision? Will this keep you sanctified in Mashiach? And will your behavior esteem Elohim? And you know clearly if your behavior won't esteem Elohim, you already know full well you ain't got no business doing it. You already know you ain't got no business doing it. John 8 and 30. And as he spake these words, many believed on him. Then said Yahushua to those Yahudim which believed on him, if you continue in my word, then you are my disciples indeed. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Then they answered him, we be Abraham's seed. We've never been in bondage to any man. How say thou, you shall be made free? Yahushua answered them, truly, truly, I say unto you, whosoever commits sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abide not in the house forever, but the Son abide forever. If the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. And the thing that you seeking to set yourself free from, and Most High willing, we'll continue it on tomorrow and try to continue it on with what we tried to start last week before we had an interruption for the saving of America. It's that the decisions you make, the choices you make, the thoughts that you have will dictate if you will remain free or stay captive. It's all up to you if you want to remain free or do you want to remain captive. And that's just how we talked about a little bit on Wednesday about how to discern between good and evil. And discerning between good and evil comes down to usage. And then coming down to that usage is going to allow you to determine to be able to see certain things spiritually as you ought to be able to separate the nephesh from the ruach. Most High willing, will continue more and focus on the differences between the two, the exhibiting of between the two, and how we need to move towards the ruach versus the nephesh. Like I say, all of us got that nephesh in us, so that Yah is in all of us. Yasharal and the heathen, he in all of us. That breath is in all of us. But all of us don't have that eternal breath like he breathed on his apostles that gives life eternal. All of us don't have that breath. That's the breath that we after. Because that breath you will never taste death. But hallelujah for Yahushua, no word. We start right there. If anybody got any questions,